Hello, viewers, and welcome to another episode of Reminiscences. Our guest today is Professor Tonnie Iredia, who made his name actually as a broadcaster, rising from news manager of Midwest Television to Director General of NTA by 2003. He has since then been a professor of media studies and indeed a new owner of a brand new University of Communication. He has done many other things in life, as you will hear. Prof, I'd like to welcome you to this program. Yes, normally we start with asking people about their early life.
Thank you.
I know you have done this many times, so the shoe is on the other leg.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
Well, like every young Nigerian of my generation, early life would have been very rough and difficult, especially for those of us who did not come from buoyant homes. Sometimes you may have to step out of school so that your other brother can be in it. So if your father cannot pay for two together, or your mother cannot pay for. So those early stages were quite rough. I spent a chunk of it in Benin at the very beginning, and then I went to Ibadan. And for the next so many years, I was in Ibadan. Went to school, went to college, went to university. Right? And it was at the end of university that I started thinking of, should I go back to Benin and all that? But now I was now working. I found myself in Midwest Television, as you said.
But what did you study in the University of Ibadan?
Well, it was a combination of sociology and mass communication. But the university didn't have a mass communication department. So those of us who wanted to do that had to be doing combinations here and there. And as soon as we finished, we had to be going to things like NIJ and all of that to ensure that nobody says you are not a journalist.
Did you do any professional training? You mentioned NIJ, things like that.
Yes.
At what stage did you do on your own or after you started working?
No. After I finished and I was now working, I had to go and do a diploma in NIJ and then came back. I also did another one in culture and communication at Bayero. And at that time, NTA was really, or rather Midwest Television, which became NTA, was very interested in getting people to study. So I went to BBC, I went to all those other training things you can.
Short courses.
Short courses,
was NTA or Benin, Midwest Television, was that your first job?
Yes.
Your first formal job, besides freelancing?
Yes, in the media.
In the media.
Before that started, I did some teaching.
Okay.
Everybody will come out. In fact, part of the teaching I did was even part-time.
Yes.
Even when I was working in Midwest Television, I was doing part-time teaching in the Institute of Continuing Education. That was almost directly outside the station. And
you are promoted to manager news at an early age. You are in your late 20s.
Yes.
Was that challenging, this under military government?
It was under Ogbemudia. At the very first, it was under Ogbemudia. And more subsequent military governors that came. It was tedious, but I don't think they were that harsh. Once or twice, we ran into some difficulties. Like, for example, those coups and counter coups. Suddenly you are in your house, 5 a.m., so just come and carry you. And they say you must come and open your station. You must come and read. You must read the news today. Things like that. And until
did that happen in Benin? Because Benin is out of the theater.
No,
it's not Lagos.
It happened. Like, for example, when there's a coup, it's not like you are being called to announce the coup. You are being asked now to legitimize by working. So everybody is brought back to the station to come and work, as if nothing has happened. Go with your normal work.
You went through that?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Yeah, it was quite interesting. But again, you know what you are doing now is what I was doing, more of interviews. Mine was hot seat.
So did you start this interview? I mean, later on, we knew you are doing Point Blank. because it's on national TV.
No. It was interview that took me to the very top.
Okay, so you started this early.
Yes,
What were you doing then in Midwest, in the TV?
It was that same program, but I was...
the same name?
Yeah, no, not same name.
Right.
It was First, it was hot seat.
Hot seat, okay.
Then governments and other people started talking about it's been too hot.
Yes.
We changed it to guest of the week.
Okay.
Right? So that
more like NTA then. Yes.
So, but it was still hot.
Mm.
And then from there, I moved on to come to the headquarters, and I revived the idea of interviewing and now gave it the name Point Blank.
Right. But tell me, as a government broadcaster, how could you manage to do a hot seat interview of the same officials who are your bosses?
It was very difficult, but I think I don't know what prompted me. I had a lot of courage, and I went on and on and on. After a while, I became known for it. So when you're angry, say, leave him, Tonnie Iredia. It's like that, don't worry. So everybody left me to do what I wanted to do. And that projected professionalism. And everybody started saying, oh, this guy is fantastic, simply because I could ask any question. There were one or two cases where it was hard. I remember the Black Scorpion, Brigadier Adekunle,
yes,
who came onto the program, and I asked him if it was true that he used to kill soldiers so that he can collect their salaries.
Wow.
And the man said, you are very lucky I didn't come with my gun. I said, I would have shot you here, nothing will happen.
Was this during the Civil War or after?
During the war. He was commander of the 3rd Marine Commando. Yes. He came to Benin, and I interviewed him, and I asked him that question.
And there was that rumor that he was killing people.
Yes, and I made it clear to him that I didn't say you were. I said it's a rumor, and now we're offering you an opportunity to clear the air. But he was very upset. Yes. That I could have asked that kind of question, that he would just shoot me.
Did the interview finish at that point?
He didn't.
Okay,
there were many more riotous ones.
Can you give us one more example of another dramatic one?
Another dramatic one was not military. It was civilian. It was the 1979 presidential elections. Right. And I had the opportunity of interviewing the presidential candidates.
Right.
And then
in Benin?
Yes. And now we're already NTA now.
Yes.
So the headquarters was taking the tapes and transmitting them nationwide.
Right.
And sometimes I was being asked to come to Lagos, which was the headquarters of NTA at the time, to do interviews. So there was this presidential interviews, and it came to the turn of Zik of Africa.
Zik?
Yes.
Himself?
Yes. And he was very upset, because I asked him that you want to become the president of Nigeria. But I recall that during the Civil War, you were on the Biafran side. If Biafra had won, where would you have been aspiring to lead now? And he didn't take kindly to it.
Legitimate question.
Yes, he didn't take kindly to it.
What was his reaction?
He was very upset. He said he was convinced that I was planted there, that I must be an agent of his opponent, and that the intention was to destabilize him. He went on, and with his very superfluous language. Unfortunately for me, because I had learnt that art, I continued with it. I never changed. In the middle of that anger, I now said, well, I'm asking you this question because there's this story that you wrote the Biafran national anthem. It was like...
So you added...
It was like pouring fuel. So it was pouring fuel on fire. So he just stood up. Then I'd rather we stop. I cannot continue. But after the anger, he sat down again. And I started explaining to him that, as a matter of fact, this is the best type of interview that he can get, because it's an opportunity to clear misgivings of the public. Eventually, we managed to finish the program.
What did you do with those historic tapes? You're talking of Benjamin Adekunle, Zik.
Yes.
Are those tapes still available?
I doubt, because
you doubt?
Yes, I doubt very much. You are even going too far. I doubt if point blank tapes are available.
Wow.
Which are not too far away. So you are talking about the ones that almost double the years. Yes. So, and it's because of the nature, the structure of the system, the facilities available, A lot of people just assume that a television station requires just camera and so on and so forth. They did not recognize that you need a good library.
But surely we archive those things now. There are places where you keep these old tapes.
Oh, yes.
So they're not there?
They are not there. I have tried to get some, and I have not been able to get any. But you see, again, those first times, the tapes were rather bulky.
Yes.
They were not like these small ones now.
Yes.
And they were also not durable. They almost immediately spoil when subjected to heat. And you hardly find a station that could put on generator or put on AC for 24 hours just to make sure tapes don't spoil. So all that had taken a toll on such very significant materials. Yes.
At what point did you move from the Benin to the center, to NTA headquarters?
Well, I moved, first of all, when I moved, it wasn't even to NTA. I moved to the Electoral Commission.
Yeah.
Yes.
The INEC of those days.
In 1987. And I first of all moved to the law school on a study leave.
You wanted to just be a lawyer?
Yes, I had finished reading law.
Yes.
And I wanted to go to the law school so that I can be called to the bar.
So you studied law while you are still working?
While I was
as
in
a
Benin.
journalist?
Yes. While I was in Benin. So at the end of that, it's not like now when you have law schools here and there. Everybody had to go to Lagos, where the law school was. So I went to the law school in 1986. Then I left the law school in 1987. As I went back to Benin, I had just been promoted general manager, and I went back to Benin and was trying to settle in. Just before I could resume, I just was told that federal government wanted to see me in Lagos. So I was wondering,
who was federal government? That must be an individual.
Military government. I got there. The then chief of general staff, Augustus Aikomu, was asked to speak to me. And I saw him say, yes, they tried to call me because they don't like this idea of making appointments, and the person you appointed was never told before. We don't want you to hear it on radio, but federal government has decided that you should go to the Electoral Commission. Anyway, I got to find out what the details were, and I found out that the government was trying to insulate the Electoral Commission from public attacks. And they thought if you had a formidable journalist in the system, it would take all the heat, and then the system will go on. Yeah. So I was appointed Director of Public Affairs at the Electoral Commission. So I got there, and I hadn't even voted before because things like that didn't really interest me. So I just couldn't understand how government came to the conclusion that it has to be me. So, well,
maybe your interviews.
Well, I don't know, maybe you are right. It's most likely. So I settled down, got to the business, and found it exciting. Started working. We had a chairman, Professor Emeawa. He was quite a strong man, and I think government was trying to dictate a few things to him which he didn't support. So he was obstinate and all of that, and they changed him. And brought Humphrey Nwosu. So it was with Humphrey Nwosu that we now conducted those series of elections that climaxed in the June 12th presidential election of 1993. So I was there. So that took me away from Benin. I was now in Lagos.
Obviously, I should ask you about June 12th, since you are a witness.
Yes.
There's a lot of stories. We know Nwosu. Some blamed him, some said he did the right thing. What's your take about June 12th?
Okay, well, let's put it like this. So much has been said about it. Maybe what someone like me should say is throw light on what really happened, so that those who are blaming people should stop blaming people, and those who are not blaming people should look for who to blame. To start with, I doubt whether President Babangida was part of those who didn't want June 12th. I doubt it very strongly. Yeah. Many of the things he did while we were working, many of the things we lacked that he provided in a jiffy, was like somebody was anxious that this thing should work. Somebody was anxious that it should succeed. So that, I saw that. The second thing I saw was that, to my mind, I think there was an internal coup that was not announced. I believe that at the tail end of the Babangida administration, he was no longer in control. That is why you could see that the so-called annulment was a piece of paper that nobody really knew the author. And you know, Babangida doesn't operate like that. When he wants to do something, he does it. If he wants to ban people, he will just announce on TV, following people are banned, and he never cared. So that type of surreptitious one they were doing towards the tail end, it wasn't the Babangida style. I think it was a group of military guys who wanted military rule to continue. And so they didn't want the transition to end. And then they brought pressure to bear on the sitting president to annul June 12th. We cannot take the blame away from him on the basis of...
he was commander-in-chief.
Yes,
you know,
he has to take control. He has to take blame for whatever his people did. But in terms of picking the real enemies of June 12th, I don't think they are the ones we are picking. There were enemies who were not even in the military, traditional rulers, top government officials who thought that by continuing, they will retain their positions. They were all working for annulment of June 12th.
So, I mean, being in INEC is actually sidestepping your main profession, which is broadcasting.
Yeah.
So, at what point did you go back to NTA? And
I had to leave there when the government of the day now dissolved the commission. And
you had no job then?
And asked everybody to go away. Then someone like me didn't have any problem because I was just deployed from NTA. From NTA. So I went back and said, look, I want to go back to NTA. And then I got a letter stating that I should go back to NTA. So Tom said, one day I was just there and I saw an announcement saying that I've been deployed to the National Orientation Agency. So I went there, worked there for a while. Then Obasanjo came and said, all those who had been taken away from government institutions, you return. If you are a professional surveyor, go back to the survey you are doing. If you are this, you go back. Well, it was a general statement. I didn't know how to go back, so I didn't do anything until I got a letter transferring me from NOA back to NTA as the Executive Director of News. So I went to resume in NTA. So I was in charge of news.
Executive Director of News, I thought is at the heart of the business of NTA. That's the position where the villa, everybody, you know, wants your attention.
But you see, at the time I was Executive Director of News, it wasn't political. Or rather, it wasn't treated like a political position. You had to be qualified. You had to have the respect of those who are working there. Unlike now, when your junior can become the executive director, you just be there. At the time I was Executive Director of News, there was no news person that was senior to me. So it was a position I earned. And government was actually saying, come and rescue this place. Don't go to another place you don't belong. So I returned to NTA.
But still, was there, these were politicians. Obasanjo was then a politician and opposition and all that.
Oh yes.
Was it really easy to run it professionally without pressure from these people? Calls, you are in the news to say, why didn't you put this and that?
Oh yes, it's just like the military day, really. It's just like that. The only thing is that you need that same issue we have been talking about, courage and professionalism. They called me several times. They quarreled with me several times. So at a point, as you will recall, I was even removed.
Back to Noah.
Yes, and then brought back later. But the truth is that I insisted that I'm a professional. And therefore, no politician can come and dictate the news angle or what makes news to me. Right? If you have an event, just supply, we will cover. But how to treat it, how to use it, whether to make it first, second, third, and all of that, nobody could dictate that to me. So they were not too happy with me. And that was why, at a point, I was redeployed.
So there were clashes with Obasanjo?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Very many. Very many. And I just found, you see, in fairness, I think Obasanjo was also quite difficult with his party when it comes to appointment of people. He didn't just believe that you have to belong to the party. You have to be good. That was clear, and you could see the kind of people he was appointing. Even people who were not in the party, like Konjo, we allowed those people that came. They were not party people. So he had some respect for technocracy. And some of us enjoyed
Yeah.
that. And the politicians were all over the whole place trying to do whatever they liked. And I was here telling them that I'm not a politician. And therefore, you cannot tell me that your party wants so and so. I said, I wasn't appointed by your party. I was appointed by government. And they will go to the president and say, oh, this man talks to me. I say that PDP cannot appoint him. And all of that. So I had a tough time with them. But the interview programs saved me. Everybody was afraid of that program, was afraid of that series. On one occasion, I was told that the chairman of PDP was on point blank by their own definition. And he had gone to the president to say, I should be removed. And that
Who was this, Ahmad Ali?
Yes. And that I had insulted. I don't know whether he did. I'm just saying the stories of what I heard. And at the end of the day, Obasanjo was angry. Why should they abuse the chairman of our party and so on and so forth? Then I was called and asked what transpired. What do you have against the chairman of PDP? I said, no, I don't have anything against him. Why were you hostile to him? I said, hostile? He said, where did you see him? And that was the solution. When I said, he came on point blank. Obasanjo said, what? He came on point blank? I said, yes. You mean he came to that your program? I said,
did you invite him?
No.
You didn't try?
I didn't see the need because I knew it won't be good. There was one occasion where they said I must come and do something. Is it meet the press?
Media chat.
Media chat, that I must come. That president said I should be on it. I told them, I said, it's not good. They said, what do you mean? What do you mean by it's not good? I said, if I go there, I'm going to ask questions that people won't like. And then you will not start quarreling. They said, no, I can ask any question. The president is up to the day. I said, okay, no problem. So I went. When the program started, I asked the president. I said, Mr. President, how come you and your deputy have been fighting and fighting and fighting? And we hear the thing has now gone to voodoo, an African medicine. The president was looking at me. I said, in fact, they said that yourself and Atiku, you are out to undo one another the African way. Obasanjo just said, look, listen, don't mind them. All those who are talking that, they are talking nonsense. Atiku is the one who is doing it. He killed 7 cows. He said, I would die after 7 days. I didn't die.
He said it on NTA?
On NTA.
Wow.
So the entire system was completely disorganized. He said, this guy told you people not to bring him. You didn't hear. But the president was not perturbed. He just said what he was saying and he carried on. So that was the last they ever invited me.
Why did you stop the program, even in retirement?
No, I didn't stop the program.
Yes.
I took it to be an NTA program.
Right.
And I took it that my departure from NTA should not stop the program.
Yes.
It was now left for NTA to put somebody else to do the program.
So why did NTA stop the program?
You have to ask them.
So what happened when you had to leave? 2008, you left NTA. Was it voluntary or finally they asked you to go?
Well, it's not straightforward. Government suddenly appointed a new DG while I was still in office. So, for me, I took it that I was sacked.
This was Yaradua's government?
Yes. But I was told that the reason was that my tenure had expired. I don't know where they got that from because I wasn't a politician. I was a civil servant. I wasn't 60. I hadn't done 35. So under what condition does my tenure expire? So I raised that and I found out that the government appeared to have been misled. From the mills, I heard that I was even quoted to have said, it is me who said I wanted to go. But nobody asked me.
You didn't have a sit down with the president?
No. Nobody said anything.
It wasn't accessible to you like Obasanjo?
No, it wasn't. And it was just like that.
So what did you start to do then? I mean, you had all these plans after our work.
Oh, yes.
So what did you do?
You know, while I was even DGNTA, one of my favorite pet jobs was to elevate the TV college in Jos to a degree awarding institution. So it immediately tells you where I sway to. So when I left office, I started doing those things that I thought ought to be. I started doing training, started trying to go to the academics and all of that.
So you went and did a PhD?
No, I already had a PhD.
Oh, you had a PhD by
Yeah,
that point,
yes,
right?
yes. So
Actually, you have two, right?
yeah, two. So I already had all of that before I retired. So it was easy for me to get a job. At that time, if you had PhD, it's very simple. You not only get a job, you probably would start with a senior lecturer position. So I went to do that. And when I got there, I discovered that there was really a big gap between theory and practice. That what we teach students in the class, that is not what they meet when they go out. For example, you want to teach students what is news, you start telling them, oh, it has to be something odd, something strange, something, all those kind of funny adjectives that was used to define news in those days. And then you have to say it has to be fresh, just happening, etc. And students were taught that. They came out of school and found out that news was hardly ever fresh. Because when a news break, a reporter wants to go and catch it. Oh, we say market is on fire. You want to rush to catch it so that it will be fresh. So why would you be saying news is what is fresh? So people like us who came with that practical background, we started challenging those theoretical foundations. And that made it quite easy for me. I enjoyed it. And at that point, I started thinking, don't you think there's need for more institutions that can synergize the theory and practice of media, especially the electronics, broadcast media. And so that is responsible for why you can see today that I have gone ahead to try to get a university of communication, which will do this idea of merging theory and practice and ensuring that people come out of there are experts. Yes, and that they are not just people holding a degree and then who need induction and all of that before they can operate. So that's really the reason why I'm pursuing a specialized university, not to replicate what is on ground, but to create a new thinking on how to make a journalist.
How much trouble did you take? Did you take to get this license? Because this is a license that has to be signed by the president, taken to the Federal Executive Council.
Well, I started in 2021, and I got it in 2025. That's how long it took. Some people got it 11 years later. Some people got it maybe a year or so.
So
later.
What are you going to do with the license now? You've got the license to set up a university for communication.
Yes. That's exactly what I'm going to do now. I'm going to start a university that is on communication, right? And before the license was given anyway, you ought to have reached some percentage.
Okay.
So we already set up
the system. So you're ready?
Oh, yes.
Does it take a lot of money to do this?
Quite a lot.
And where would you get it?
Well, I'm hoping people who are my friends like you will will come forward and do one thing or the other. I'll build a studio,
because
and call Kabir
as a
TV
former
studio.
civil servant, professor now. The first question is, where will the money come from? The idea is great. But
no, you see, I also think that there's an exaggeration of the capital nature of television or of universities. Because there's so much that you need to do there's so much that you do that you really don't need to do. If you go outside this country, you will see a simple building like this. It will be a university. Why is it that in our own case, a whole town is the equivalent of
because we like buildings.
We like bogus things. We come and now have a stadium inside the university. You want to make up your mind. Do you want to be a football entrepreneur? You want to be a university? Why do you need a stadium? So those were the kinds of things that I think contributed to raising the amount of money that one needs. I think that anybody who is not running the university for the purposes of profit may not spend as much as people are saying. If you are like me, trying to create a legacy, try to ensure that people really come to understand the profession they want to join. And your only worry is not to make a loss. The university will not be difficult. So
it's not a profit university.
No.
Non-profit.
No.
But is it a lot of trouble at your stage of life, in your 70s, to start a big project like this?
Ordinarily, the answer will be yes. But I also think that it depends on the volume of work you do. If you are just a promoter and a proprietor, and you are going to allow professionals to do the job, I don't think the weight will be on you.
I assume you'll be the pro-chancellor, right?
Yes, that's not a job.
Mm.
That's not a big job. That's ceremonial. You come there once whenever there's ceremony. You don't have
But not the vice chancellor.
No,
Okay.
not the vice chancellor. Certainly not. Well, I'm qualified.
Yes,
but
of course.
like you have rightly pointed out,
yes,
at my age, it won't make sense.
Yes.
So I think that that's something that one can do without feeling that. And like I said, I'm not joking. I think a lot of people will support what we are trying to do, especially governments. And there's so much novel sides to each. For example, a man wants to be a public relations officer. He goes to the university and he studies mass communication. He comes out and he's gotten a job, public relations officer. But if you come to my university, you won't study mass communication, you will study public relations. You will come out with BSc public relations. You'll be an expert in that field.
NTA, where you spend a lot of your time, but the other private ones that are struggling to also come up. Are you encouraged with what you see, or you really feel we're not really making much progress in this area?
Well, in terms of human activity, I doubt whether any progress has been made. But in terms of technicality, the facilities have improved, right? The kind of, as a young reporter, I remember very well in those days, we had a studio camera. Every morning when we come to work, we have to go to the camera and hit it 3 times before it can work. You know?
Yeah.
That no longer exists now.
Now the camera will remind you.
Will remind you that, yes. So, secondly, you go to cover an event and you need to now look for a vehicle that will bring you back in order to come and do. But today you can submit your story from the spot. And so there's a lot of ease arising from improved technology,
right,
which can make today's media better than the media of our days. But in terms of human capacity, in terms of the opportunity for individuals in the media to maximize their potentials, the situation is not too good. I see a lot of things that show that people do not really have, they just do things without thinking. You see, you can watch television in Nigeria, whether it's private, whether it's public, whether it's big, whether it's small, all of them will be saying the same news. The same news. You know, if there's a news of the day, maybe Kabir held a press conference, so that will be the report in every medium. Now,
so no professionalism,
nothing,
no courage.
Nothing. There's nothing to show that some people have news that they have made, all right? A few of them try through their interviews. Somebody comes for a program, they take an extract of it, make it the news, and therefore they maintain some level of originality and exclusivity.
Right.
There will be no other person picking that. But those scheduled reports that everybody is present, it just doesn't.
What do you think is responsible for this stagnation in the human?
I think it is the turn of events in the country. So much has gone down in the industry. People are no longer industrious. A lot of people in some sectors of the country are being paid highly for doing nothing. And so other people want to also just be paid. So there's so much. That's the same thing you see our young people today. I'm sorry, if you have a child who is 20, 30, they will be telling you, Daddy, I want a car. Well, that's something you couldn't say in your time at his age. People want to have even an aircraft when they have not even finished school. So there's too much of permissiveness in our system today. And except so much is done to stop it, we are going to have problems. And people know it's a reality, so nobody is working. So there's lethargy, there's laxity, and it's for the nation to really be up and doing, we need to play down on politics. Everything in Nigeria is politics, and we need to play it down. It's not only politicians that can make a nation. Today, if you're a politician, there's nothing you can do. If you are not a politician, there's very little you can do. So we are all playing it.
Tell us a little bit about the private Tonnie Iredia.
Hmm.
Are you a Benin High Chief? You don't use it so much.
No, there was a day, I think it's you or somebody said, Chief Tonnie
Yes.
Iredia, and I said, no.
Yes.
I come from a culture where chieftaincy is very high. It's not purchased. It's not given to people because of their capacity to have money, but it's more of integrity, more of dignity, and also more of personal interest. So you don't just say you are a chief. That kind of impersonation is an abomination.
Yeah.
Chief.
So you're not a chief?
No.
And you don't want to be a chief?
Well, you cannot say you don't want to be a chief, because if the Oba says you are, you can't say you are not. But I am not.
What a family life for you?
Oh, great. I think I've been blessed. I have every reason to thank God. I don't have any minors. All my kids are fantastic.
You have many of them?
Yes. The last of them, or rather the least qualified of them, has a master's. So we don't have a problem. And I've reached a level now where I don't really need anybody to give me anything. They are all grown up. They are no more in school. They actually the ones feeding me. So all is well with me, family way.
Yes.
I've had a wonderful wife who doesn't care about whether you are making noise about your position and all of that. In spite of all the visibility attached to me, my wife is very simple. In fact, people hardly know her. So it's been great with family life for me.
Do you have any private hobbies, things you do for fun, friends and all that?
The best of them actually is reading.
What?
Reading.
Reading.
Yes, it's the best for them, reading and writing. That's why you see, even at this age, I'm still a columnist. And Vanguard will tell you that I have never missed any week that I didn't write a column.
But physically, reading is a very passive activity.
Not really. Depends on how, if you see anything that is regulated. For example, if you read in the morning every day, it's like somebody who is doing another exercise, especially if it's the same time and regularly. I have not been doing the kind of exercise you are thinking. More of walking around the compound, making some little exercises here and there. Many years back, when I was in the NTA, I used to play table tennis at the back of my neighbor's house. But my neighbor is no longer alive. The table tennis is no longer there. I no longer live in that area.
Thank you. I was going to say Chief, but of course, Prof. Tonnie Iredia, for very insightful conversation. And we wish you luck with the university, which affects our industry. And thank you, viewers, for staying with us in this episode of Reminiscences. And until we meet another time, goodbye.